Hi everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful time. Today I would like to share my experience of using this Eversolo DMB A8 music streamer DAC and preamplifier with. You can add internet storage to use it as a music server as well, up to 4 terabyte of NVMe storage inside. This one is using AKM4499EX digital to analog converter chip with AKM4191EQ digital modulator chip. So 4191 is just a sole provider of filtering and reconstructing incoming digital signal to feed it to 4499EX. So that is how, basically that's how it works. And this one also feature DSP chip by AKM, which is AKM, I believe 7739VQ chip. So that chip is featuring a 124-bit ADC and dual 32-bit DAC inside. So it can control two DSP channels in parallel. You can control it at the same time. So that is an advanced DSP chip that they put it inside, as well as it has AccuSilicon femto dual clocks. But 4499EX is just single chip, not dual chips like A26 or like D400EX come with it. So DSP chip is the very big plus, and I play around with it and it works wonderfully well. And in terms of a chip, they do have similarities in other companies offering, such as Audiolithic AH90 by Custard Audio. So, but there are a lot of differences, right? This A8 is using dual AccuSilicon femto clocks inside. That's a major different maker between this one and AH90 by Custard Audio. This A8 is featuring pretty much everything that you will need or you are going to need, and you will end up using most of the features, right? Especially if you want high quality pre-DAC and music server and streamer all in one box solution. This one can totally do that because the preamplifier stage is very good. I tried that with my iSpower Class D mono blocks as well as Topping PA7 Plus, and I drive it to the limit, and I don't find any distortion or unwanted noise. Overall background is very quiet and transparent in sound. It's gonna be hard to beat in the price range of all-in-one box solution. So that pre-stage R2 pre-stage is big thumbs up from me. I was using on my streaming rig with the KLH Model 3 speakers and Musician Night One, and I've been using there, and then I moved it over to here and pairing with these two speakers, JBL L100 Classic 75th and Pioneer TED S1EX. So Sony HAP-Z1ES serving as a music server, USB cable connected to A8, as well as Ethernet port and streaming music from Tidal or Qobuz or Amazon Music. Pairing with my Accuphase E4000 amplifier using Ride cable, the Dallas XLR cables. That is my connection and pairing components. I will have more detailed list in the video description. So when I moved over to this system, I started off with this S1EX and sound quality without ever touching DSP yet, right? I find it to be very revealing, very good transient response and attack, and like dynamics are very convincingly realistic and very musical at the same time. But there can be tiny bit of brightness if the recording is bright. Totally revealing sound reproduction. The holographic imaging is very good. White sound signature. But I wouldn't call it rich in terms of a sound signature or sound color. It kind of a little bit on neutral with a little bit of warmish, very tiny bit of warmish, okay? Because it totally removes AKM house sound signature, which is a AKM velvet sound. So that kind of a deep and rich sounding bass notes are not with this A8. It sounded like you are listening to ESS kind of sound signature to it. So that's how they tune it. That is with the EOS engine enabled. When I disable it, it reduces a little bit of holographic soundstage. It sounded tiny bit flatter if I disable the EOS engine. So I keep on using EOS engine, and that's what you will hear in my sound sample as well. So the EOS engine makes it very different in sound signature and sound coloration in my system. But with all that combined, overall sound signature is transparent. You are not going to hear rich and warm and deep soundstage. It's not going to be that kind of sound signature. It's dynamic, vivid, and spacious sound with very articulate notes that it will produce. And space between the notes are very well reproduced. So that is the most impressive thing, no matter what I try, right? So when I try my USB connection, music server with USB connection, and it sounded real nice. But there are little downside. I mean, just one downside. That is when it's switching formats, like DSD to PCM, always create popping noise during that transition. So that is a little downside. That is only occur using music server and USB connection. That's the only thing. But if I change it to internet player only, there is no noise at all, super quiet. Other than that, everything works perfectly. And MQA seems to be not in the specs, and they probably dropped it. But if you use Tidal Connect, if you play MQA files, it will show us on the screen, no problems. The next thing is, let's go to the source, right? That is the input source. You can do internet player and all that. You can choose many of them, but only one at a time, as well as output too. Output, you can do analog outputs, RCA and XLR at the same time, but you cannot put out digital output and analog output at the same time, except RCA and XLR. If you want to use this A8 as a pre-DAC and everything in one box, you can connect your subwoofer. For the DSP, right, you can do pretty much all inputs in different DSP setting, which is great. And then I'm using Optical One DSP enable. I'm only playing around and adjusting the distance and time delay, as well as the PEQ that I'm using, parametric equalizer that I try to play around, because some of the music that I stream from Tidal sounded bright, so I try to play around with time delay and adjustment to that. But please keep in mind though, the resolution of the ADC chip is only good for 24-bit and 192K. I tried many different type of music, including DSD files, and I find it to be DSD files sounded the best to my ears and in my system, right? The PCM files are like very identical in sound to like ESS chip based DACs, that a tiny bit of upper mid-range brightness that time to time I experience. So I try back to back with Audiolithic AH90 DAC, right, which is made by Custard Audio, and it uses the very same chip configuration but different clocks inside. They are using their own clocks. So I tried it back to back. For example, one thing that easily can be noticeable is when I'm playing Linda Ronstadt, a Blue Bayou track, right? Original recording. So that intro, there is like a hi-hat that going on. Those notes are a little bit thinner with this A8. Then when I switch it over to Audiolithic AH90, The hi-hats are a little bit more media and more precise with like more realistic in sound. So that's where the differences are. And bass notes, AH90 have a little bit richer and deeper and articulate bass notes. This A8 has the tight and quick dynamic bass, but not as deep as I would love to hear. So that's where the differences are. The voices and vocals and highs and everything is pretty accurate, especially human voices are incredibly accurate. When I was listening to the track Sound Sample that you will hear, the live recording, the reverberated notes after actual human singing voice. So those kind of notes in live environment is properly reproduced, almost like I was listening, that kind of feeling, because that was recorded in Jazz Cafe. So that kind of accuracy that you are after, this one is very good at it. This one is pre-production unit. I just want to remind you that everything combined, plus you get all the features, top of the range DSP and DAC and preamplifier stage. I think the price is right. Let's say if you buy something from Parasound preamplifier with DAC, and they do have a bass management, nowhere near close to DSP chip that feature in this A8, just for a quick comparison. And then DAC inside is not good as this A8 can do, and probably you will be paying more or same amount of money, and it doesn't even have streaming capability. So that kind of preamps are, if you are after, this one is the one that you should look for. DSP will make everything great. With all those features and functions and everything combined, they are selling it for $1,980. It's very good price because you will get highly capable R2R pre-stage, pure R2R pre-stage, by the way, and transparent sounding DAC, as well as you are getting, and my favorite feature as well is you are getting DSP built inside, plus you will be replacing a bunch of components with one component if you are after that kind of features and functions. Unlimited things that you can do, especially if you know how to play around with DSP. Probably DMP A8 will give you and brings you best sound quality out of your system when you figure everything how to fine tune it. High potential and capabilities that we can do in our audio system. This one is for pure two-channel music. DSP tuning is the must, so everything combined. This is the kind of component that modern music lovers will need. Highly recommended, my friend. Thank you very much for watching and happy listening.
Next one is, it's called Kiss of Life. And let's hear some bass. The sky, that's the color of love. There must have been an angel by my side. Something heavenly came from above. He led me to you. He led me to you. He when I lay eyes on you. Hey, never, you wrap me up in the color of love. You gave me the kiss of life, kiss of life. You gave me the kiss of life, kiss of life. Wasn't it clear from the start? Look at the sky is full of clouds. The sky is full of He barely brings you your heart all the way and let it lay and let it how many tons of love inside now I can see and let it you gave me the kiss of life, kiss of life. You gave me the kiss that fly, kiss of So great. On the bass, Mr. Torigoe Keisuke-san. On the guitar, Onuma Yosuke-san.